Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
WMAL. 5:07. It's O'Connor and Company this Friday morning. Thanks for tuning in here and letting us be part of your morning commute. We love riding shotgun with you. And by the time we're done with our 4 hours here, we're going to reach the realization that the hottest thing Sydney Sweeney has done recently is stare at a reporter when she tried to get her to get political in an interview. That was amazing. We played a little of the audio yesterday, but now we've all seen the video, and we've got more of that interview that we'll play for you. A really amazing moment, Patrice. Also coming up at 6:35, it appears young people don't think there's anything wrong with communism, so we've got some work to do. Let's talk to Elizabeth Edwards Spalding, chair of the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation here in D.C., for a bit of a lesson. 8:05, Dr. Mark Siegel on the announcement yesterday that there's lower prices now for the weight loss drugs that are out there. And then at 8:35, Chuck Thies will analyze a lot of stuff going on with Mayor Bowser in D.C., including her cozying up to Mamdani and the announcement that she's being investigated by federal investigators over her trip to Qatar. That's all coming up. Good morning, Patrice Onwuka.
Good morning. Happy Friday, Larry.
I hope it's happy. I mean, you know, the shutdown continues. There's a
I know. I think day 38, I believe we're at now. Little
bit of movement, but I don't know if it's enough to actually get things on track. And of course, as we discussed yesterday, starting today, there will be cancellations of flights by about 10%, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's going to have a huge domino effect, as everyone booked on those 10% flights will then have to be on standby and wait to try to get into another flight, and then that will overcrowd flights, and that will slow things down, and then other flights will be delayed. And a lot of those flights are also connecting flights for other flights, and it's just going to be a nightmare. True. It's going to be a nightmare, and it's not pretty. We'll start quickly with yesterday. Steve Scalise, actually, I thought was quite effective during the press conference for the House that they have every morning, where he sort of called out Democrats for bragging about how strong their position is now after the election this Tuesday.
I mean, you heard Senator Murphy yesterday, quote, "I think we're in an enormously strong position right now." Strong position? What's so strong about taking food out of the mouths of 42 American families? What is strong about that, Senator? Sure, you can vote again today to keep the government shut down, but there's nothing strong about denying food to people who are low income and who can't afford it. That's a weak place to be. But that's what they're bragging about. When, as we saw, the Transportation Secretary yesterday said 10% of flights are going to have to be cut back because we don't have enough air traffic controllers because Democrats chose not to pay them. And so people are getting ready to go travel to see their family, hopefully, for Thanksgiving. But they're not going to be able to get that flight. They're going to have to leave a day or two earlier to drive. Maybe they won't be able to fly. But don't worry. Some Democrat senator thinks he's in a stronger position because he's now leveraged Americans as pawns in some game. That's what they think this is. It's disgusting.
It is, and I think it was really strong what Steve Scalise said. So, Patrice, what do you think the breaking point is going to be here, and do you think that they are going to budge? Because they don't seem to appear to budge, although there are a couple of Democrats that are starting to get a little bit uncomfortable. What do you think it goes from here?
You know, I think they're going to budge. I've been saying by the end of next week, I believe the shutdown will be over. Here are the two reasons why. Number one, they got the energy to and shape some of their Democratic turnout in Tuesday's elections. And number two, they fly commercial. These members of Congress fly commercial, and they're going to find the pain very much personal of trying to, get on a flight. They probably will see their flights get bumped, delayed. They don't want to deal with that hassle. And yes, that sounds like a very selfish argument, Larry, but it is. They are being selfish. And I'll tell you why. Tell you how I know, because yesterday Democrats in the Senate voted against a bill that would from Senator Rick Scott, that would say, you know what, if you can't keep the federal government open, then no one in Congress gets paid. And guess what? Democrats blocked that too. So they do not want any personal discomfort. They do not want any personal impact. They don't care that their staff are not getting paid. They don't care that their constituents are not getting paid. They don't even care that the people who are protecting them aren't getting paid. As long as they're getting paid, and as long as they can get on a flight and go back home to their houses, and in some cases mansions, then they're fine with this shutdown, using it as leverage.
Last week, Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma said that he was hoping that by Thursday, that would be yesterday, there would be some movement and basically an agreement in the works. Then he said it might be pushed till Friday, but more likely Thursday. So maybe it'll be today. Yesterday, we had a couple. There were no details. There were no specifics. But Dick Blumenthal from Connecticut was quoted saying, there seems to be some indication of a thaw. And likewise, Mike Rounds, Republican of South Dakota, said, I'm optimistic that we should get something done this week. I think there's a path forward here. But again, no details about what that means in terms of a path forward. The leaked rumor was that there would be an agreement in the Senate to have a specific piece of legislation voted on, specifically covering reimbursements for Obamacare. But there are voices like Bernie Sanders that says that is meaningless if we don't have a commitment that the House will pass it and a commitment that the president would sign it. And so there we are. There is a poll out, CNN is reporting, that half of Americans think Democrats should just open the government and move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, this was interesting. So the KFF, the Kaiser Family Foundation, they put out this survey. And you know what? CNN is so disingenuous. The headline was almost half of Americans think Democrats shouldn't cave, when actually the actual numbers were that over 50% of Americans say Democrats should cave, and that this should not be they should approve a budget without the tax credits, which is what Democrats are holding out for. Quote, in order to quickly end the shutdown, even if it means the cost of health care will increase for some people. So, half the nation has common sense to realize Democrats are being obstinate. They need to stop this. The federal government needs to reopen. And I can imagine that other less than half of the nation is probably, once they realize they may not be getting home by airplane for Thanksgiving because of these cancellations and delays in flights, they may start to say, you know what, Democrats, get your act together and open the government too.
Republicans and President Trump's strategy up until this point has been, try to minimize the impact of this thing. And, he moved heaven and earth to get the troops paid. He utilized tariff income to pay for SNAP for the last 4 going on 5 or 6 weeks, if he can use some of it for I think half of reimbursements on SNAP, I think, is what they just pushed through. Although a judge made a ruling which will not stand, forcing the administration to fund SNAP. You can't fund something if the money hasn't been allocated by Congress.
Exactly. Yeah.
That said, the strategy has been minimize this, make it into a nothing burger, and the Democrats will see that there's no impact. Now they can't keep doing that. Now that they've reached a point where they can't keep, shuffling money around, and there is going to be an impact, and maybe that is the way. The question is, once there's an impact, who do the American people blame, and who gets the heat from the political heat from the American people? They're hoping and betting that it'll be Democrats. Democrats are hoping and betting it'll be Republicans. Either way, the one thing we know for sure is that we feel the impact, and we have to suffer. And we are going to be affected by it. And either way, it's not pleasant being treated like a pawn by people in a little political game just for their own political gain. And that's what Democrats are doing.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Republicans have been going on a PR offensive, at least, and doing a lot of media appearances. You just heard Steve Scalise at their daily press conference in the House, and now here's Senator Ted Cruz with Larry Kudlow yesterday talking about the impact.
My question is, when will we solve this shutdown? Look, if you look, this shutdown, the Schumer shutdown, is imposing very real costs on the American people. Let's just focus on flights. There are 50,000 TSA agents right now who are going into work. Not a one of them is getting paid. They missed their last paycheck. They're not getting paid. There are 14,000 air traffic controllers. They're going into work. Not a one of them is getting paid. They missed their last paycheck. What's the result of that? Well, we're seeing more and more delays, more and more cancellation, thousands and thousands of cancellations and delays. We're seeing ground stops in L.A., in D.C., in Houston. Just a few days ago in Houston, Bush Airport, the line to get through TSA was 2.5 to 3 hours long. And as you know, today the FAA announced the 40 largest airports in America have a mandatory 10% reduction in traffic. That means 1 out of every 10 flights is going to be canceled. There are millions of Americans who are going to have their flights canceled or substantially delayed because Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have forced the longest shutdown in history. My hope, we voted 14 times to open the government. Republicans have voted to reopen the government over and over and over again. 14 times the Democrats have voted keep the government shut down. Tomorrow, I expect we'll put on the floor an appropriations bill that has 3 appropriations bill and an extended continuing resolution. There's some chance the Democrats might finally let us open the doors and turn the lights on, but we'll see. This will continue until the Democrats decide they've had enough with their political stunt.
All right, so that's the bill that will be proposed today. And by the way, it should be noted, the House has done their job. The House majority, Republicans, have done their job. The appropriation bills are there and they're waiting. It's been the Senate rules that have been dragging this out. And I get the feeling that either the Democrat senators are genuine in their obstinance here, making sure that Republicans, take a knee and kiss their ring, even though it was Republicans who won the election in 2024. And bow to the will of the minority in the Senate and the House and go ahead and keep propping up Obamacare as a condition, which, again, if you're the Republicans in the Senate and the Democrats win this and you acquiesce and you give them what they want, what's stopping them a month from now from doing the exact same thing for some other thing that they demand? All right, now we're not going to open the government until you fund NPR. Now we're not going to open the government until you allow transgender soldiers in the Army. But this is, you cannot allow it, right?
And
so I feel like they're either doing that, Patrice, real fast, or they're doing this because they want to get rid of the filibuster. They're playing a game of poker, and they want Republicans to get rid of the filibuster. And I'm almost, frankly, I think that's the better way to go. So at the very least, at least for the next year until the next election, and I think Republicans will retain the majority in the Senate next year. So for the next 3 years, Republicans can do whatever they want in the Senate without worrying about 60 votes.
Let me take just one thing, and then I'll talk a little bit about the filibuster. And I'll do it quickly. What's interesting is this clean continuing resolution that's passed in the House has an expiration date of November 21st, which is just pretty much 2 weeks from now. And so even if the clean CR were to pass today, we would be back in this potential shutdown stalemate days before the Thanksgiving week kicks off. So actually, the Republican Steering Committee has floated that we need a new CR that takes us through the holiday season into early January. So at least then we know that, the troops will be able to get paid for Thanksgiving and Christmas, that folks on SNAP, they can buy a turkey. They're not going to have to worry about that air traffic can get some relief, in time for the busy holiday travel season. So we'll see what happens. I do think, though, that very likely we might have to see, a start from scratch with a new CR that takes us beyond the holiday season. On the filibuster, I get your point and about, the Democrats are going to get rid of it anyway. Let's just get rid of it now, pass as much of the Republican conservative MAGA agenda as possible. My concern is that I don't believe that every Republican in the Senate would actually vote, and that you would actually be able to advance every bill. Why? We saw what happened when John McCain gave his infamous thumbs down on Obamacare repeal. That was devastating. And that was one maverick who sunk a massive key part of the Republican agenda at that time. Now, you fast forward to today, you still have some Republicans who are are mavericks of their own, and they may say, you know what, we wield a great amount of power. We know that a simple majority is needed, but we can withhold our vote because either we don't like this bill or we just want to flex our muscles. And then you end up in a case where every piece of Republican legislation that I think we all want to see passed doesn't get passed, and the filibuster has been eliminated. Republicans don't advance all of the agenda they really would have or could have done, and then Democrats regain power at some point, and we know that Democrats vote lock and step on everything, and they would not have mavericks that would sink all of their crazy radical wish list ideas. So that's how I view the idea of eliminating the filibuster.
I don't think Republicans should worry about I think it's easier for them to wield some sort of influence over members of their own party that might be a maverick versus being stymied by the opposition party that votes in lockstep with Chuck Schumer. Being worried about one or two maverick Republicans stymieing things, I'd rather be in that position than worrying about the entire caucus of the Democrats who truly don't care. They're just playing craven political politics to retain their power. But I get your point. I suppose it's 5:23.
All right, we started the week with rumors that she was leaving. Well, it's official. This high-ranking member of the Democratic Party is on her way out. We'll talk about it. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37, and we're just getting started here on O'Connor and Company. I'm glad you're with us. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Coming up at 6:35, Elizabeth Edwards Spalding from the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, because, well, we've got to remind, apparently, the younger generation about how evil communism is. 8:05, Dr. Mark Siegel on yesterday's announcement of lower prices for weight loss drugs. And then at 8:35, Chuck Thies on the future of Mayor Bowser. Now, wondering whether she will be indicted by a federal grand jury or she'll just go full socialist by running like Mamdani. One way or the other. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
It seems our music is a little funkier when you're here, and I
Boys to Men, Larry. You know
exactly how to take that. Well, we talked about it earlier in the week. There was a rumor that Nancy Pelosi was going to call it quits, even though she had filed for re-election in her district for the 2026 midterms. But then we also knew that it appears as though at least two young Democrats were going to be challenging her out of the Mamdani school here. There is a shift. People were, sort of rolling their eyes after the election this Tuesday when I said this is no longer the Democrat Party. This is the Democrat Socialist Party, because the power center is Sanders in the Senate and AOC in the House, and then, of course, Zohran Mamdani, the highest profile Democrat Socialist, elected as mayor of New York City now. That's who runs this party, and this is a perfect indication that the old guard is done. Nancy Pelosi made it official yesterday in a video. Here's a little bit of it. It rambled on for quite some time. You know how people are when they get a certain age. Here's cut two.
I have truly loved serving as your voice in Congress, and I've always honored the song of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace, the anthem of our city. That is why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know. I will not be seeking re-election to Congress. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative.
I'll be honest with you, and there was a whole montage of her career, and I started to get sad looking at it, not because I'm going to miss Nancy Pelosi, God forbid, hell no. No, I was sad because she's 85 years old, and when you look at the last 10 years, she's just devoted herself to opposing Donald Trump and just, the tearing of the speech of President Trump's
State of the Union.
It's, think about it. 10 years ago, she was 75, which is already beyond retirement age for most Americans. And she stuck it out for another 10 years. And her entire identity for the last 10 years has really been just because she's got Trump derangement syndrome, just because she's the resistance, and what would have been, certainly ideologically not something that I would have admired, but at the very least a career that had achievements and was somewhat groundbreaking, suddenly became kind of sad and pathetic, I thought, because she dwelled in this angry resistance world where all she was about was stopping Donald Trump, when she could have been spending time with her grandchildren and great-grandchildren and just enjoying life. But this was her life, and there was nothing left for her to enjoy other than continuing to cash those government checks, continuing to wield power, and, oh, by the way, making some pretty uncannily lucky investments in the stock market.
Yeah, her legacy is going to be interesting. She was able to really corral all the kittens in her party through some pretty major pieces of legislation like Obamacare. But then, she left the policy realm and just, to your point, made it about Donald Trump, his impeachments, making sure that, the party never lost focus, that their biggest enemy was not each other. It was the man in the White House, or frankly, the man who was not in the White House, but certainly his agenda was living on. I won't miss her. Certainly she did the party a favor when she pushed out Joe Biden, infamously kind of made it pretty clear that he needed to go, and certainly burned that bridge. I would have been fine to have him continue for President Trump to have beaten him last time around. But at the end of the day, Nancy Pelosi showed that, you can wield power mercilessly and do it with a smile, which is what she did. And, I'm not going to miss her at all, but she certainly will be a hero to many.
But to many. And listen, it's a weird thing because, honestly, as a Republican, I admire the fact that she was able to herd her cats as forcefully and as authoritarian-like as she did. Sometimes I wish we had a leader like that. But at the same time, I prefer actually having a soul. And when you look at how she wielded that power and to what ends, it was for incredibly destructive things. Let's not forget her famous, victory lap she did on Obamacare when she was when faced with questions about how destructive the bill would be. She said, "Oh, we have to pass the bill so you can see what is in the bill." And now we see what's in the bill. We wouldn't have a government shutdown right now if we didn't have Obamacare that ruined health insurance in this country, and that's seen as an achievement for her. I'm sorry, I can't celebrate that, and I can't honor that. Yes, she was powerful. Yes, she ruled with an iron fist. And when she ruled with that iron fist, incredibly destructive things occurred to this country. Also, one of her last interviews earlier this week, she called President Trump the vilest thing on the planet and said that he was evil. And so you'll forgive President Trump for returning the favor yesterday when he was asked to comment on her announcement.
I think she's an evil woman. I'm glad she's retiring. I think she did the country a great service by retiring. I think she was a tremendous liability for the country. And on Dick Cheney. I thought she was an evil woman who did a poor job, who cost the country a lot in damages and in reputation. I thought she was terrible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, well, and he's being criticized for that, which is, again, I'll remind you what she said about him the other day. That's how these things go. And by the way, now looking forward, the real power struggle begins. Hakeem Jeffries is not very popular in his caucus. He's not very effective, and the only reason he was in his position,
he's a very weak leader.
Nancy Pelosi placed him there, and Nancy Pelosi has protected him. Now, all bets are off. She won't be there anymore to protect him and strong-arm him. She has no power, and as I said, the power center is now shifted. So what? We're going to have Speaker of the House Ilhan Omar, perhaps. We'll have Speaker of the House Rashida Tlaib, perhaps. We'll have a radical, I think, and I prefer that. Stop pretending that you're something that you're not, Democrats, and actually put people in power that are who they are. It's 5:44.
Later this morning, the Chris Plant Show, Nancy Pelosi leaving Congress in 2027. Got to give the media ample time to celebrate her. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
Always look forward to the Chris Plant Show. So, Zoran Mamdani is not just the mayor of New York City and the new face and really heart and soul of the Democrat Socialist Party here in America. That would be the other party. They're going to take off the donkey suit now and just show themselves to be the Marxists that they've always
sickle.
been.
That's it.
Yeah, hammer and sickle, I'm thinking. Because, when you're a donkey, when you're the Democrat jackass, they don't have opposing thumbs, so you can't hold on to the hammer and sickle.
They just have hooves.
No. Right.
But you stomp people with those. You stomp poor people with the hooves.
So now Zohran Mamdani is not just that face and heart and soul of the Democrats here in America, but he's also representing socialists around the world. Other socialist mayors who have ruined the cities they've been elected to are now giving him kudos. We'll begin with Mayor Khan, Sadiq Khan of London. Cut 5.
Well, there are many parallels that New York and London have, and there are many parallels that Zohran and I have. And congratulate the city of New York. They've chosen, in a bitterly contested election, hope over fear, unity over division, and I'm already experiencing the ripples of hope and happiness coming from his victory.
We had our 9/11 terror attacks in New York in 2001, and about a year or two later, London had their horrifying train attack there, the bombing attack on their trains. And then just a decade or so later, they elected Mayor Khan, and now New York has elected Zohran Mamdani. And look at where London has gone since he's been elected mayor. Look at what's going on in the streets of London right now, and apparently New York is going to follow suit. That I don't think that's necessarily high praise that we should all be impressed by at all.
No, I mean, listen, the march towards Islam, and more scary, Islamists running office should be alarming. But unfortunately, a lot of young people, and I don't even call them well-meaning anymore, folks on the left, are giving in. Yeah.
It's been a disaster in London since Sadiq Khan has got there. President Trump has pointed that out, not just in terms of the homeless living on the streets and migrant workers taking jobs, et cetera, but there's also been a lot of violence. And, of course, you saw the protests the second the October 7th terror attacks happened. You saw hordes, literally hordes, in the streets of London waving Palestinian flags, demanding.
And the assaults on women and children, the sexualization of children.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous, yeah.
So good luck, New York. You've got Sadiq Khan on your side, or on the mayor's side. Also, by the way, for those who think that Muriel Bowser is just, a pragmatic, practical, moderate Democrat here in Washington, D.C., she took to the X platform and congratulated Zohran Mamdani on what she put as a well-earned victory, wishing you great success as you lead your city forward. We love New York, too. Muriel. She's running again, and she's trying to harness that energy, right?
Absolutely. What I'm interested in is who Zohran Mamdani has tapped to kind of fill his cabinet and different positions. And he yanked Elena Khan from D.C. She was the former federal trade commissioner here under the Biden administration. She's going to be leading up the efforts to fill his administration with people who are going to absolutely destroy businesses, large corporations, but also the medium size and the small ones too, with heavy-handed government regulation. So if you think it's hyperbole that when we say that Zohran Mamdani hates capitalism and is going to destroy it, no, he's actually staffing his administration with people who will figure out the nice ways to do it by strangling you in addition to taxing you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of flashback videos that are being sort of discovered now that the election is over. Zohran Mamdani was very well packaged. He had a neatly trimmed beard.
Yes,
he always had a smile on his face. He was always very
nice
happy
beard,
and joyful.
very well.
Yeah,
Yes.
and now you're seeing videos of him from just like a year and a half, 2 years ago, with his hair wildly unkempt and bushy and shaggy, with his beard overgrown and looking more like he's a taxi driver than a politician. He was always in that dark black suit with a white shirt and a black tie or maybe a striped tie during the campaign. But before, he would wear his shirt buttoned to the top or just with one button open, but without a tie. He looked like, somebody from the Iranian parliament, not necessarily a New York, somebody who was,
true.
That very nice man. I keep saying, I think that some New Yorkers voted for this guy thinking that he's the one who wrote Hamilton, because he sort of resembles Lin-Manuel Miranda. I mean, that was the persona. But now you've got these videos of him with the big bushy beard and angrily shouting into the microphone and looking like an angry pro-Hamas protester, because that's what he is. Coming up at 6:35, we're going to speak with Elizabeth Edwards Spalding, chairman of the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, to give people a little bit of a reminder of the dangers of Zoran Mamdani's ideology. And then coming up at 8:35, Chuck Thies about Muriel Bowser's future. Coming up, it's the 6 o'clock hour, and we've got an update on the psycho sandwich guy. Yeah, the D.C. resident who decided to throw a Subway sandwich at law enforcement. That's against the law, right? I mean, there's no question about it. You can't just throw a sandwich at a cop. Oh, welcome to D.C., my friends. We'll give you the latest next.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news.